Welcome to episode 11 of Starting Nowhere. I'm your host, Brandon. Today, my guest is Katy Moore. Katy is going to tell us today about her experience being pregnant with her first child. She also tells us what it's been like to have a medical device that was put into her body cause her illness that no one believed or could diagnose easily for her. Spoiler alert, since this episode was filmed, Katy has given birth to Ronan, and mother and child are doing very well. Enjoy today's episode. All right. Well, good evening and welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. Since we had to reschedule this thing like 90 times, I'm very happy that you kept the interest in actually getting this done. So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who you are and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Katy Moore. I'm originally from Minnesota, and I am currently spending time with my family right now. I'm back in Minnesota. I was in Tampa for a while, met you through jiu-jitsu. I work at Citibank, pretty into helping people and kind of took a healing journey with my life. So just a little bit about me. I'm also expecting my first son, so super excited about that as well. And I'm just trying to enjoy life as much as I can right now.
Excellent. And before I jump into that, I have to ask for anybody who just saw it, what's the situation with the dog there behind you?
This is my dog, Leona. I don't know if you can see her anymore.
I can see a little bit, the tip of the tail wagging. That's about it.
Yeah, I have two dogs, Leona and Tisla. Leona's my pet, and Tisla's like my little purse dog. So
very
definitely
nice.
my personality.
Yeah, I typically lock my dog out of here before I start, not because he'll do anything, but he sheds constantly, and the last thing I need is a big puff of hair just going by the camera as I'm like knee deep in a deep, serious conversation. So you gave away something there that I was going to actually ask. So you do know you're having a boy.
Yeah, I am having a boy. I decided on a name too. I'm gonna name him Rowan. I
Nice.
think that, obviously when you have to see the baby for the first time to maybe make that call. But Rowan, he'll be here mid-October.
Very nice. A Halloween baby. That's going to be awesome. So Rowan, like Rowan?
Yes.
Awesome. So are you happy? Let me say it this way, because I know the answer is as long as the baby's healthy, that's all you care about and everything, right? But are you happy to be having your first child as a boy, or would you have preferred a girl? Well, how do you feel about that?
I think I'm definitely great with a boy. Just I know how difficult myself can be as a girl, and I'm very blessed and thankful I'm having a boy for my first. Very thankful.
Yeah, I would definitely say that boys are cheaper to take care of, whether that's right or wrong. You can give them a pile of dirt to play with, and that's a happy Christmas or something like that. So I was raised in a house full of women myself. I was the only boy in there. So I did not get to experience a traditional boy grow up, if you will. So I'm hopeful that he'll get something of the same and get surrounded by women, because I think it helps you learn a lot. And I think it's good to get boys in that situation as fast as possible.
Oh yeah.
So how's your experience
Oh,
been?
absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead. I apologize for cutting you off.
So no, you're fine. He'll be surrounded by girls. I have four sisters, but he's gonna have a lot of nephews, so it's boys and girls. But pregnancy has been wild. It started really crazy. It's been so much better, but I actually found out I was pregnant when I went to the ER, and they found a cyst on my right ovary. So I thought it was like a chemical pregnancy because of the cyst. But I ended up having to have surgery like 2 weeks finding out. So I was, I think, 10 weeks pregnant. I was very, very early. And again, we thought it was just a chemical pregnancy. So I ended up going through surgery. I had stage 1 ovarian cancer. They removed the cyst, my right ovary, and I expected to either come out of the chemical pregnancy or I expected it to fail, honestly, just with what the doctors had told me. But I think through faith in the big man upstairs, this kid he's still here. He's alive and well. So I was really thrilled that coming out of like the cancer stuff, I didn't have to do chemo for my entire pregnancy. I'll have to revisit that after and just check everything out. But they were pretty confident that they got everything. And what's fascinating too is when you are pregnant, like with a baby, it helps heal, you know, whatever some underlying illnesses, stuff of the mom. Your body can read that, and the baby provides stem cells and some cool stuff like that. So,
Well, that's awesome.
that was,
So
yeah.
I'm sorry that you had those challenges. I wasn't aware, but congratulations on being able to defeat the cancer. Obviously, that's a great start to everything. Could you tell me a little bit more about what chemical pregnancy is, other than I'm assuming the name of the next big electronic artist or something like that? But
Oh,
what does a chemical pregnancy actually mean? I have never heard those terms together before.
no, yeah, I hadn't either. What it is your hormones that produce, or the hormones that your ovaries produce. It would be an imbalance of that. So I had a very large cyst on my right ovary, and those hormones that develop that cyst could trigger what they call a chemical pregnancy.
I got it. I still am super confused, but I don't want to spend all day talking about women's bodies because, as I'm sure you're not surprised to hear, I understand very few things anatomically speaking about women. So we could spend all day and I'd learn almost nothing, even though you were giving me facts on facts on facts. So, but has there been any differences for like the experience of being pregnant than you kind of thought it would be? Because I know as a man, obviously, I have my impressions of what it's like to be pregnant, and I know women do as well. And so I'm just interested to hear how it's been different to actually go through the process compared to what you thought it might have been like.
I thought I would be more emotional like throughout the whole process, but I found it to be really calming. I'm thankful I didn't have any like crazy hormones that I've heard about. I didn't have any real like crazy food cravings either, or I haven't. I was actually it was harder to eat for me a little bit. Just I think with underlying surgeries and stuff that I've had, it, it wasn't anything that I expected, I guess. Like it went by fast. But like body changes, like you realize how little control you have over your body. You just watch it like morph into a baby maker, basically. So, like, you know, like I've always been pretty athletic, and I think I have always focused a lot on physical health. So to watch my body change so rapidly, that was the hardest part of being pregnant. But it's still a journey. I mean, I've learned a lot about myself throughout the whole process, and you really have to stay in check with your emotions because like your baby feels that. So that's been my main focus this whole pregnancy.
That's awesome. I think it's a pretty intelligent way to go about it, you know, trying to keep yourself calm and trying to experience the pregnancy, you know what I mean, instead of rush through it, which no matter what you do, it's still going to be the 9 to 10 months that it takes, of course, for the baby to arrive. But I always am interested in hearing the different experiences that people have in any of those situations, particularly something that is physically taxing like that. So it's just very interesting because it's still insane to me, even though I'm 35 years old. I've known since, I don't know, 10 years old that babies are created inside a woman's body. It's still nuts to me that is still how everything goes down. And we just grow human beings inside of, women. And it's just nuts to me. I'm never going to stop being amazed by that. Not just that women could do it, but also that that's how recreation happens for us. It's just insane.
It's wild. I've thought the same, honestly. Like I never understood how powerful a woman's body is. I mean, I know all of our bodies are powerful, and but really to grasp the concept of growing another human being and like walking through that, like it's on another level. It's crazy. And you feeling him move inside me and stuff, and like knowing it's a foot or a hand, like it grossed me out for the longest time, like to feel him move, like it made me sick to my stomach. but now it's like, okay, like this is real. This is a human being inside of me right now. I feel his foot, I feel his hands. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy what our bodies can do and what they're capable of naturally.
Absolutely, and I'm definitely glad at this time to be born a man human and not a male seahorse, because I'm telling you, I'm too selfish. I'm far too selfish as an individual to ever care about a life that's walking around in my body. Anybody who's not paying rent inside my body is not getting any emotion from me until they show up and start getting to work. So,
Yeah.
but
No, I
um,
hear you.
one of the other things that you've been very brave and forthcoming about, and I think, first of all, I commend you on that, but also that I've been very intrigued, because I had no idea this was even possible until I saw you start sharing some of your journey on that. But you had some breast implants that actually caused you some sickness. And can you go into a little bit more about how you found out about that and what you've learned since going through that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I got breast implants a while ago. I think it was back in 2014. I had them for 2 years before I had another reconstruction surgery, just due to them not being healthy. I mean, I think I had some so my second revision surgery was for one that it wasn't sitting well in my body. So they went in and corrected that. They put new implants in at that point. Refused. The doctor literally told me, because I asked to get them out at that point, but he said, no, your chest is going to be really messed up if you do that. You have to reimplant. Like, that was his advice. So I reimplanted then. And then the next 2 years go by, and I literally out of nowhere become extremely ill. And I started noticing more just like hair loss. First of all, my thyroid started having issues. My what do you call it? I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. Autoimmune diseases. I started getting diagnosed with autoimmune diseases, one right after another. And that's when I knew, like, my immune system was failing. And so any doctor that I went to allergists, I went to gastrologists, I went to so many different doctors, and they all thought I was crazy because I told them how sick I was, with fatigue, everything that I was experiencing. I mean, like, washing my hair was exhausting. So I literally for 3 months, I was bedridden. I could not do anything. And then I was watching on Facebook one day, this lady, she was a former Playboy model. And she had met with a doctor in Jupiter, Florida, and he had removed her implants and went through all of this, it's called breast implant illness, went through everything of what she was experiencing. And she shared like a Facebook group that she had joined that really helped her with information about breast implant illness. And I had never heard of it at that point. So I looked into her story. I ended up reaching out to her, got more information, and our symptoms and just like the timing to the type of implant that we both had was exactly the same. So at the time when I got implants, the company, they're made by Johnson & Johnson, that also makes baby products. Here goes the corporate FDA approval stuff. I realized that there had already been a class action lawsuit filed against Johnson & Johnson, which is also known as Mentor, for making gummy bear implants, which were the kind that I got, and they were claimed to be unrupturable. So so fast forward, I make an appointment with this plastic surgeon to get my implants out. I tell him my story, and I finally broke down because he was the first person that believed that I was actually sick. And I had met with, I think it's called immunologist. It's about your immune system. It's a doctor that focuses on your immune system. They tested my blood and immune system at that point and said that it was working at the capacity of a 7-year-old. So I decided to roll the dice and get them out. There was no, but there was no like guarantee that my symptoms were going to go away. There was no like cure, because nobody had really researched into breast implant illness. It wasn't really a thing yet. So I ended up getting them out the next day. Like breathing was incredible. Like I didn't realize how effective my breathing had become from the implants. When they went in, one of the outer shells was completely gone from the implant. And I learned later down the line that the outer shells on every implant, whether it's silicone or saline, is made up of like 30 to 40 different types of metal. So I had metal toxicity in my body. I had, they had to scrape my lungs because the silicone had started seeping down into my body, my lungs, everything. So they scraped my lungs, and then realized that the other implant, the outer shell on that, was almost completely gone. And he said that as soon as he reached in to take it out, it burst in his hand. And like, I'm thinking like, okay, I've trained jiu-jitsu, you know, I've done all of these things where it's high, you know, heavy impact on my body. And like, no wonder they had ruptured, but nobody was able to pick up. They called it a silent rupture. No doctor was able to pick up on it. So, after I recovered from that, and then, you know, all my symptoms, not my thyroid, but a lot of my symptoms went away after getting them out within 3 to 4 months. I went on a heavy like metal detox, and really like had to work hard to get the silicone out of my body. And then fast forward, I think it was like 6 months after, no, it was a year and 6 months after I had my implants removed. That's when I was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer. It was right after healing from that. So, but that, I definitely believe that was part of my implants. And, you know, there's no, like, I had no history of like cancer in my family. So, I really think that obviously it was due to those, but who knows? The doctors will never confirm that either. But lots of legal issues involved with the whole implant thing that I'm still involved in, and I think I'll be involved in it for a while. So,
yeah, I would definitely agree with your thought process there, that the breast implants, with all the leaking and everything else that they had going on, that there's probably some carcinogens that definitely led to the breast cancer. I think that's a logical train of thought to follow, and that hopefully they'll be able to find out some more information on that so they can hold Johnson & Johnson accountable and help other women help other women avoid that same type of situation you had to go through. So I want to jump back to the beginning of kind of where you went there, because something surprised me in that you got counseled out of having the implants removed by the first doctor you talked to. Can you talk more about that? What was his thought process there? That it was just going to look bad, or what was he talking about? Was saying it would kind of mess up the breast, I guess, if you removed them at that time?
So he said that I would have like basically 2 craters in my chest if I removed these implants, because they were done underneath the muscle. He said that, you know, the muscles and how they grow back after surgery is, you know, they grow around the implant. So it would be like I would have a sunken chest. That was never the case. After I got them removed, I was completely fine. I did have to do some like fat transfers and stuff, but I went back to completely normal, what they were before I got implants. So your body is self-healing, whatever. I mean, it went back pretty much normal. But he and several others, he wasn't the only surgeon that I went to. But I probably went to a total of 6 plastic surgeons to get different opinions on them. But all of them, except for the one that removed my implants, told me that there's no way that my implants were making me sick, that it was in my head. that, you know, I had allergy issues. You know, they would always just blame it on an underlying health issue and name it something, because it's all about money at the end of the day. I even got a 3,500 check from Mentor, the Johnson and Johnson implant company, like a few years down the line, like hush money. So it's clearly there's an issue. I mean, the FDA never followed up either on any of the implant testing that they should have. That's why they were banned. I think it's been longer than 7 years, but they were banned. Silicone implants were banned at one point, and then they brought them back, claiming all of this stuff. But I still believe that they're super unhealthy for women or whoever.
So do you think that you're going to be giving your baby Johnson and Johnson products, or is that probably a company that isn't entering your house so much?
It opened my eyes how like the big corporations really work, and how like I realized the medical industry wasn't all it claimed to be, especially like when it came to big pharma. The big pharmaceutical companies, the FDA, I realized like they're not out to care about our health in a sense. Like they really aren't. They're about making money, and we're the collateral at the end of the day. So,
and that's where I think one of the lines from one of my favorite documentaries of all time, Fight Club, come in, where he talks about how they decide to do recalls. You know, it's a mathematical equation. It's not about the individuals who are getting hurt. It's about how many lawsuits they actually think they're going to have, how much it will cost to do the recall versus how many lawsuits they'll have to pay out, and the estimates of those type of things. Because you're right, it's capitalism. Companies exist to make money. And so if they can minimize the hurt on people, it's better for their bottom line and their public image, but it's not the reason they do a lot of the things that they do. Because if they did, they'd be a nonprofit corporation. You know what I mean? So that's just it's interesting to see that happen in real life, because we know things like Aaron Brockovich happen. We know those type of situations happen. We're aware of them. We're aware of the Exxon oil spill and the BP one as well. But it's really, really weird and kind of off-putting to see it happen to someone you know. And then again, I knew you throughout a lot of this process, not knowing, again, the ins and outs of it until you decided to start sharing that. And you were an athlete. You were a physical competitor on the mats. You know, did you end up doing an MMA fight? I know you were training for one at one point. I don't know if you ended up doing it or not.
No, I never got to go through with one.
Yeah.
So focusing on my health, obviously, had to come first. But I was just in a different fight.
Yeah,
So.
well, exactly. But and that's the point that I'm trying to get to there, is that you weren't somebody who was like weak physically and this took you out. You were strong. I remember, again, you're off the Aaron Hart female competitor tree, which means domination at all times. And I've seen you compete in those matches and everything like that. So you were a very strong person physically. So to see somebody like yourself who had these experiences, that lets you know how serious this is. It's not that you had pre-existing conditions and that you were just physically weak and you're like a sick child or anything like that. It was all these toxins that were going into your body from these faulty products that should not be out on the market and should certainly be regulated better. So I guess my question in that same vein to you would be, when you talk to women who are considering doing breast implants or something like that, do you tell them to be careful about what they choose to do, or do you just advise them against it for the time being until more is known about these type of sicknesses?
I think it depends on like the person that I'm speaking with, because it all depends on the intent and the reason why they want to get them. And nobody could have talked me out of getting implants. I did it for very egotistical reasons, and with people like that, you can give them the information. Obviously it's up to them with what they do with it. But I tell people my story. I tell them how much money I have had to it's cost a lot of money to fight for my health, and to know that it stemmed from a choice that I made that was really selfish. Like at the end of the day, like I tell them that first, because it's never just one surgery. When you get implants or any type of cosmetic surgery, you're guaranteed to do more than one, especially if some type of plastic is involved in putting that into your body. But I actually have my implants and containers, and I show them, what they look like, what they, in 2 years, what my body was trying to protect itself. So it was literally trying to, your body actually creates a shell. It's called a capsule against implants. And my body even ate that shell, like it was super, super bad. So I actually will show them the physical implants that I had removed.
And so I'm going to try to say this word. I mess it up every single time. But are you familiar with endometriosis? I still didn't do it right.
Endometriosis.
Yeah, see, you struggled with it, so I feel better. Thank you. I appreciate you giving me that.
I just remember the lawyer that I feel like it's part of the song, but no, I don't know what that is.
Well, and so let me be clear. I'm not intimately familiar with it, but I do know that the process of getting diagnosed with it is exactly like what you're describing, that women go to doctors and they don't believe them. They tell them there's nothing wrong with them. It's extremely hard to test for. It's extremely hard to diagnose. And it seems like a similar situation to what you had. And I'm not comparing, I'm not suggesting that you have that or anything like that. I'm just saying that there is this pattern, it seems, in medicine to not believe women's pain, to not give them the proper respect of what they're going through, and to not try to find solutions that actually would work for them. You said you went to 5 different plastic surgeons who just said, we can't do that, until you finally found one that did. And this is where privileges like you and I have, which is we have a little bit of money, right, come in handy. And that's sad to think about somebody who may not have those same financial benefits and what they go through, because the doctors they see are telling them, no, we can't take that out. You're just going to have to die, essentially, from the implants that we put in however long ago. And that's terrible. And I think that's a ridiculous thing to go through. So I really hope that as you continue through the legal proceedings, that you're able to make some real change for people. But I think through your story already, you're doing it for whoever happens to hear it. So I'm very thankful that you are bold enough to share it, because, again, people can get very sensitive about their own privacy issues and things like that. And sometimes we need to hear the stories of seeing somebody like yourself who it happened to and everything. Like I said, especially somebody who was an athlete, not somebody who was susceptible to these type of things already. So thank you for all that. Now, I have to say, though, your story is not the only, one of the only ones I've heard this year about Facebook leading to something good. Because you said you saw that group from the Playboy Playmate. And I'm like, that is insane. That if you hadn't been on social media, say, that day, or happened to just scroll past something, you know what I mean? Who knows what would have happened, and when you would have found out, or if you ever would have found out about that.
God, I know. I think about that too. But I'm a strong believer in somebody's watching out for us, and I feel like it was just one of those moments where I was literally at, my breaking point with everything. I was tired of not being believed. I think that was the hardest part for me, was nobody believed me. But fighting through that, I had to. I'm like, I feel like I'm dying. Like, somebody's got to believe me. But the lady who created that Facebook page, it went from, I think, 2,000 2,000 women when I was in it, when I first joined it. And now I think it's over 20,000 women. And just to hear everyone's stories, mine is not, there's some women who are in some bad shape and can't do anything because of their financial situation. And that is heartbreaking to see. And insurance doesn't step in. I mean, and no plastic surgeons are really willing to do pro bono work. They're plastic surgeons, obviously. But I've seen a lot of different charities go up to help women, financially. And there's a lot of GoFundMes and stuff. And a lot of the women try and, pull together in those groups. And it's been a really amazing journey to see, women specifically band together against something. So I'm happy to be a part of that, but it's really hard also to watch.
I'm just taking a guess here, so I don't, hopefully this doesn't come off as crass or rude or anything like that, but have you seen some pushback, you think, on this type of topic because of the stigma around breast implants? You know what I mean? Like if I got a pacemaker and it wasn't working right, somebody would be a lot more caring at sea, I would imagine, than if I got a breast implant. Like you said, you've gone through 5 different surgeons. I wouldn't have to go to 5 surgeons if I had a bad pacemaker. So I'm just wondering, what's your experience been with that kind of stigma around breast implants and actually trying to get help from something like that? Do people go, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't have got those and that type of stuff? You know, what's your experience like that been?
Oh, I got slammed when I started telling my story. In the beginning, I got slammed for, oh, you should have researched your plastic surgeon. My plastic surgeon was like number 2 in Las Colinas, Texas, which is like the rich part of Dallas. Like, I wasn't cheap on my surgeons, any of them. So hearing that, women who, were hell bent on getting them, and, seeing my story, like, they attacked a lot of them have attacked it, but they just, they don't know. And I think a lot of the plastic surgeons are men. I think a lot of plastic surgeons are in that mindset of, everything for looks. So you don't get a lot of grace in that. Like, you get more judged than anything, because at the end of the day, it was my decision. I didn't require breast implants. I didn't, like, it was a choice that I made, and a choice that I, put my health at risk for. So I think even just trying to heal from that part of it, it took some time, but people can be so cruel. And I think it just, there's just a lot of stigma of plastic surgery in general. Like, a lot of this shit is not safe. The butt implants, injections, lip injections. I'm not knocking anyone that does it. I've been there. Like, I understand what it feels like to want to look good, and, all of that stuff, but it comes with a cost, and people aren't really willing to talk about that cost. So there'll be a lot of stigma around it, because it's so against what people want to do. So against that egotistical type of thinking of your looks are the most important thing, and they're not.
Well, and I think that kind of speaks to the heart of an ideal that I've seen take place in America a lot, especially over the past few years, where people are essentially protecting themselves from the realities of dealing with those situations. Because what we're talking about here is companies putting unsafe things inside people's bodies, elective surgery or not. That's something that needs to be regulated and supposed to be regulated. So you're not holding your government accountable if you just say, well, they shouldn't have got this implant, they shouldn't have got plastic surgery. You're not holding the companies accountable. So it's an easy thing to see if they're allowed to do it in elective surgeries. Why aren't they going to start cutting corners in mandatory surgeries? You know what I mean? It's not something that you can say it's only elective surgery, so it doesn't affect me, it doesn't bother me. It's something that we need to draw a line on, because companies should not be putting unsafe devices in people's bodies, no matter the reason for putting them in people's bodies. And surgeons should be held accountable for that. But more importantly to me than the surgeons, because you take one surgeon offline, that shuts down an office. But if you stop the product, now you're shutting down like 1,000 offices for doing that and everything. You know what I mean? So I think what you're doing and what you're talking about is very important. And the stigma needs to be solved pretty readily, pretty quickly, because if not, then we're going to run into a lot more of these type of stories, and it's going to get pretty bad. And again, history has shown us that if it starts with one thing, it's going to go to the other, right? It's going to start with breast implants, then it's going to go to, maybe not a pacemaker, because that's obviously a big industry, but I don't know, some kind of wrist screw or something else small. They're going to continue to cut corners. It's indicative of how they operate as a business, and they need to be held accountable. And again, what the hell is the FDA doing? If not that, they need to be doing their job is the main thing, right?
Right. Sorry about that.
It's okay. We do these live, so these things happen. It makes it feel more authentic, right? Like, if you ever watched, it hasn't been on for a while, whatever stuff, but if you ever watched Saturday Night Live and you see them going through a sketch and they start laughing in the middle of it, that's the whole thing. People love that. You want to see it live. Or Bill O'Reilly. Oh man, one of my favorite internet clips, one of the first internet clips I saw that like really made me like tear up laughing, was the Bill O'Reilly one from like the early 90s. It was behind the scenes tape, and he was practicing, getting ready for doing it or whatever. And he's trying to get it down, and something kept messing up, and he just got extremely mad. And he says, F it, we'll do it live. No, screw it, we're going to do it live. And he just walks out. It's freaking great. Weird tangent. So how has 2020 been for you? Obviously, I think you've been spending most of the year up in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, I've got to spend a lot of time with my family here, so that's been really good. Like I haven't spent time like I have since I moved out when I was 18. So I have a lot of nephews. I have a new niece, so being close to home, especially during like this crazy year, like I feel very fortunate and blessed for sure. But 2020, man, it's I was one of those people like on New Year's that was like, this is gonna be the best year of my life. This is it, you know? And like I was looking at videos the other day, like old snaps, and pulled up the video where I was out with actually Aaron, and we had a blast on New Year's Eve, and then I was like, man, literally like a month later I found out I was pregnant and all that, and it's been a whirlwind, but it's been very good too. Like I know with everything that's happening in the world, it's been not so good in a lot of areas, but me personally, like it's just been a big growth year for sure.
I'll ignore the obvious pregnancy joke there about it being a growth year. I think, yeah, it's supposed to be. But but I would say if you take away the medical side of things and the uncertainty around hospitals and things like that, of course, I think it's one of the best years to be pregnant because no one's doing anything that you can't participate in. You know what I mean? There's no party and all that type of stuff. So you're just getting to sit at home with everybody else. It's great.
No, I 100% agree. I even told I was talking to my sister about that the other day. Like I don't feel like I've missed out on anything. She's like, you haven't. Nobody can do anything.
Well, that's awesome. So you could come out the other side of this pregnancy and the world returns to normal right as you get to return to normal. You're like, what? What's everybody complaining about? This year wasn't so bad.
I know. Like oh man, I'm happy. I'm like, because whatever is going to happen in the world is going to happen. There's no point in worrying about anything that we can't control. So it's got to roll with the punches.
So I want to ask you, if this is too personal, let me know. But I just think it's an interesting part of the birthing process as well. You think you're going to do a hospital birth, or are you going to do like the field of lilies with a doula and all that type of stuff?
I am doing a home birth.
Oh, awesome.
If you've ever, okay, big decision on that, but it came from actually like my health history. I was like, I felt like a science experiment for the last decade, and I hate hospitals. I hate being there. Like I know I'm thankful for hospitals, obviously, but I am thrilled to be able to bring my son in, hopefully safe and sound, in a home birth where he's not at a place that I strongly despise. And I'm excited just to experience like the full labor process, honestly. I know that probably sounds weird, but crazy, but I want to experience it all.
I don't think any of that sounds weird. I think that that's very much becoming more accepted, and what's weird is that we went so far away from that. When you understand, when you look into that industry, and it's really weird that I know these things considering I have no children, but when you can look at the way that the hospitals have kind of they forced some women into C-sections. They have what happened with Serena Williams, where she almost died because of the blood clots in her legs because they wouldn't listen to her. You have all these different things. So I think it's good to do a home birth. The one thing I'll say that's weird about home birth, if I was to ever have one, I couldn't do it in my own home because I can't be watching TV and then all I would see is that right over there, my wife or girlfriend or whatever had a baby in the middle of our living room, and that's all. It would ruin the whole room for me. I'm like, I couldn't watch TV comfortably anymore. I'm like, I just keep seeing the birth over and over again.
You get PTSD.
Yeah, well, you have to rent a room. It changes the vibe. Once a baby's born in there, I can't watch garbage TV in there anymore.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think like I'm gonna do a water birth. So like I've hired a midwife, and one of my friends is a doula. So it's just gonna be a cool experience. I'm excited to be able to do a home birth because I have nurses and doctors will always pressure you to do what's most convenient for them. So that, like, if you ever want to watch, or if anybody wants to watch, it's called The Business of Birth. I think it's on Netflix still.
That's the Ricky Lake movie or documentary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it goes through, like, so basically, to make a long story short, if a doctor like wants to go eat and you're in labor, they can IV you something to calm the contractions down, or if he wants to go home, he or she, they give you Pitocin to speed it up, like, just, and then plus, like, you have to lay on your back, like, that's like the last position you want to be in, like, to give birth, but it's more convenient for the doctor and the nurses. So yeah, I couldn't imagine having to go through something so excruciating like that and not be able to move around or do what I need to do for myself. So I just thought hospital was not the way for me.
And like I said, I support that. I've seen the data on home births and everything like that too. Again, I don't know why that's true, but I know that I have. And so it's surprisingly at least as safe, in a lot of cases safer. And a lot of the women who have done them do comment, because you're talking about women who've done home births and done hospital births. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They do say that they prefer the home birth, and the home birth, they felt more connected to the process. They felt more connected to their child in the birthing process and everything. And again, safer, and they felt more cared for because they have a person who's only there for them, is not there for the hospital, doesn't have to do the things like you're talking about where they're not going home. They're here until this is done anyways. You know what I mean? So I support it. Like I said, I support anybody taking their own health and care into their own hands anyways, and getting outside of the system that is obviously rife with problems. Again, like you said before, we're thankful for hospitals. They definitely serve life-saving purposes. They're very good, but there's some things that they're not the best at. And I definitely think the birthing industry is one of those things from what I've seen. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that, all of us women have an option. And I think it has to, I'm not knocking anybody that goes to a hospital to give birth at all. Like, everyone should do what they feel that they need to do for themselves. And that's, I think, only something that each woman would know. I don't think there's anything like better than the other. It's just whatever's going to make them feel the safest and can get the baby out safely, for them and the baby.
If I ever have a woman pregnant who is having my child, I will definitely make friends with somebody that I dislike deeply, and I will convince them to let us have their home birth inside their house and just ruin their carpet with, like, well, because I think you can, like you said, you do a water birth, you do it in like a pool or like a tub or something like that, right? So we'll just do it in the middle of the living room and just not fill the water up right. It's going to splash everywhere, just make a mess, and then never talk to them again. That's my diabolical plan to piss people off.
That's not a bad deal.
See, is that what you're doing? Is that why you're home with family right now? You're like, I remember you sent me to my room.
Payback. No, you can actually get, like, because that was my dad's, like, question, like, what about my carpet? And such a guy thing. Yeah. And you can actually get plastic carpet stuff.
Oh, it's gonna look like an episode of Dexter. Have you ever seen Dexter? Where he plastics the whole room. Oh my God, I love it so much more now. I'm so much more of a fan of this now that you get to Dexter a room. That's awesome.
It is definitely Dexter style for sure. And everything's covered in plastic. Like the top, like the birthing tub, like you have to put a plastic liner. Like everything is it's like Dexter for sure.
Well, you just gave me my next business idea. I'm gonna launch a line of birthing plastics. That's because, again, you could think about it, because what people probably end up getting is something like what's it called? Because I got it when we were preparing my house for a hurricane a few years back or whatever. But you get that just big sheet of plastic and cut it, right? I'm sure if I could come out with a private label brand of plastic that's specific for birthing tubs and everything else and just make a killing. So thank you for that. Yeah. I'm launching into that immediately. No finder's fee though. You get nothing. So after the child is born, after Rowan is born, excuse me, do you think you're going to move back to Florida? You're going to stay in Minnesota? What's next for you?
I'm kind of a open, I don't know. I honestly don't know yet. I think I have a lot of things into play right now, but Florida, I mean, all my stuff is still there. So I
Yeah.
have to go back to Florida at some point, my career and everything. Um, but we'll see. I think I think having the support of my family is gonna be key, for this baby. And I just want to make sure that I'm making the right decisions for him. It's, like it's not about me anymore.
Mm.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I could totally see you doing the what's it called, the van life, where you're very nomadic and just moving around to places and stuff like that. So let me ask what probably is the most obvious question I think ever. Is your son going to train?
Oh, absolutely. That's the one thing I'm so excited. Like I wanted a boy so bad so I could do jujitsu and teach him that. And he'll definitely train. I mean, I won't like be that parent that's like hell bent on making him do whatever I want, but I honestly think everybody should train as a family, self-defense, especially with everything that's happening. I mean, you got to know how to defend yourself. So I'm excited to share that with him, and I hope that he loves it as much as I do.
Well, I think it's a great way to negotiate dishes that needed to be done or any other chores stuff like that. Because I have to assume by the time that he's really training and stuff like that, you'll be what, close to brown, black, or something like that. And so you just
Of
hey,
course.
do those dishes. You're like, no, all right, slap bump roll, let's go. And you know what I mean? You just choke him like, now you
God.
got choked by your mom and you got to do the dishes.
The dining room is probably going to be like mats. Like I feel like everybody that I know in jiu-jitsu has a room with a mat in it,
Mm-hmm.
especially for situations like that. Let's roll it out.
Did you see Ian and Ellie's baby announcement?
No.
Oh, well, so surprise, first of all. But
Oh, that's so awesome.
it is funny because they told Ian, I was the best man at their wedding and everything like that. So Ian told me months ago. I knew long before they did the announcement, and then they put out a video of them rolling. And the first thing in my head, because I knew, I'm like, how are they rolling when she's pregnant? How are they gonna hurt the baby or something like that or whatever? But it was the baby announcement, and they said this is what happens when you roll at home for 6 months or whatever and stuff like that.
Oh, how funny. That's awesome. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Good for them.
That's gonna be
Wow.
awesome. I'm looking very much forward to them being parents because they're children at heart already, and it's gonna be fun. So I think I like the fact that a lot of my friends now are having kids because one, it gives me an excuse to be like the drunk uncle. I don't have any children myself yet, and I don't know if that'll ever happen. But I can definitely come and hang out with their kids and babysit and stuff like that, and just like have a glass of whiskey and tell them things they're not supposed to know, so that I can get in trouble with their parents later. That's the life I want to live. I want to be a drunk uncle.
I love living that life. Like that was me. I was the drunk aunt at Christmas. And like you get tired of the kids and you get to leave. So, but I don't get to do that anymore.
If my niece or nephews hear this, I never get tired of you and I never leave because I hate you. It's nothing like that. I had that thing to do. I had a thing to do. So.
Bedtime, I'm out. Good luck.
So, all right. Well, Katy, thank you very much, first of all, for joining me. But more importantly, to me at least, thank you for being brave enough to share your story, being open enough to share it. Because if one person hears this, you could be just like what happened to you with Facebook. I think hearing your story could be that catalyst for somebody else to go find out what's happening with their body, or for somebody to maybe make a smarter choice for how they choose to put implants in if they still go forward with it, or maybe choosing not to go do implants until there's better regulation and those type of things. So just being careful in general. So I really appreciate that. Also, just sharing your experience being pregnant because I'm just nosy and curious. So I do appreciate all of that.
It was fun. I'm glad to talk about it.
Outstanding. Well,
Thanks for
thank you very
having
much.
me.
Have a good night. Stay safe. I want to see pictures when you finally have the baby. I'm very disappointed that we weren't able to, induce birth right now on the podcast. That would have been a great way to end the episode, but it's okay. I'll take it for now. So.
Fine. Okay, fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I'll catch you later. Have a good one.
All right, you too. See ya.
Thanks for checking out today's episode. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to see more starting nowhere. Also, make sure that you check us out wherever you listen to your audio podcasts, as we also are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.